Hey friends, Amy Astrab with Astra Stamping. I am here doing a pull-out pop-up card tutorial today. This is not an original idea of mine. This is taken from a video tutorial I watched by Lisa Curcio, another Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. But I have changed the dimensions so that it will come out of one sheet of cardstock. So if you've watched her video, please take note that so what you're going to need to create this pull-out pop-up card is your trimmer, some tear and tape, an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, and some DSP. So I'm going to lay the DSP aside for the moment and the tear and tape as well. We're going to go ahead and start with our trimmer. So we're going to be cutting the piece of cardstock to form our base. Our base needs to be 9 3/4 by 5. Okay, so this way first. We're going to cut to 5 inches this way first. And then we're going to take that 5-inch piece and we're going to cut it down to 9 3/4 inches. You're going to have this little piece left over. You can lay it to the side. It is going in your scrap pile. Now we are going to go ahead and score this while we've got it in here. We are going to score at the 4 1/4 inch. So there is our 4 1/4. I want my scoring blade. So we've got that scored at 4 1/4. I am going to now turn this. Okay, and we want to score at 3/8 of an inch. Give that a nice hard press. You've got a good score line. You're going to turn this around and you're going to score again on that 3/8 inch or one mark before the 1/2 inch line. Okay. And what that gives you is just enough room to put your tear and tape along that line, okay? Now, you can do this next part either with your trimmer or you can do it with your snips. For time's sake, I am going to be doing it with my trimmer. So, you've got your score line at the 4 1/4. This is your longer end, okay? We're going to trim off on the long end, right on that score line. And if you pay attention, your blade has a little notch. Once that notch lines up with your score line, you're there. Okay? You can pop that open. Now we're going to go ahead and turn this around. We want to score it on the other side. Again, it's the long end that we're cutting on. I'm sorry, we're cutting, not scoring. So make sure that your score line is lined up with your track. And you're going to just go ahead and cut right up to where this notch is on your blade when it's even with your center score line. Okay, so here's what you've got right now. Okay, now for me, it's easier to just take my snips and snip that, but you could also do this with your trimmer. Okay, so those are going away. They can also go in your scrap pile to use for something else later. Okay, we're done with those. So this is what you should have left. You've got 2 flaps on either side of what's going to be the front of your card base. Okay, so this is going to fold like this. And then you've got these 2 little flaps that are going to eventually form a pocket for our pull-out. Okay, so our card base will fold up like this. Okay, for now we want to leave these flaps out because we're going to put tear and tape here and here. Okay, but before we get rid of our trimmer, we've got to make a few more things. So now we're going to cut the insert, or what's going to be the pull-out pop-up portion of this card. Now, this needs to measure 3.5 by 7.5 inches. Okay, so you should have 3.5 inches left over because we cut 5 off of the 8.5. So 3.5 is already cut for you. Now we're going to cut this down to 7.5 inches. So you still need that long arm open to get to your 7.5 inches. And you're going to cut. Okay. We still need this piece, so just lay it aside. We're going to do our scoring on our insert first. So this needs to be scored at 3 inches. So find the 3-inch mark. Make sure you've got your scoring blade and not your cutting blade. And give that a nice good score at 3 inches. Okay. And you can go ahead and fold that. This is the insert for your, this will slide into your card base so that when you pull it out, this will pop up and reveal the inside greeting. Okay. We're going to lay that aside for the moment and return to this piece you just cut off. This piece is going to form our mechanism. We need to cut it to 2.5 inches by 2.25 inches. Okay, so we'll stick it back in here using our cutting blade. We're going to cut 2.5. That piece can go in the scrap pile, and this piece we want to cut at 2.25. Whoops, 2.25. And we're going to do some scoring on this piece. We're going to score at 3/8 inch again, just like we did when we did our base. So move your cutting blade out of the way. Give a nice score on that 3/8 inch line. On both ends. So this is your mechanism. You can go ahead and give that a fold now. We'll be applying tear and tape on here in just a moment. But before we do that, we're going to take our bone folder and we're going to break down that paper a little bit, using it just like you would a pair of scissors when you want to curl ribbon for a package at Christmas time. Just going to go ahead and loosen that up. Okay. Now that is your mechanism. That's what's going to make this card work really well. We are done with our trimmer. Actually, no, we are not done with our trimmer. We're going to go ahead and cut our DSP while we've got it out. Okay, now I have cut the pieces that go on the insert already. No, I'm sorry. This piece is 3.25 wide by 4.25 long. And this piece, the piece that will go here, is going to be 3.25 wide by 2.75 deep or long. So those are the two pieces you'll need for the insert. Like I said, I've pre-cut those. You will also need for that insert a piece of white cardstock, and I apologize, the light is a little bad. This piece needs to be 3.25 by 2.25. Needs to be 3 7/8 inches wide by 4 inches long. I've already got it cut 3 7/8 inches wide. I also need a piece that is 1.25 inches. So there are the two pieces I need for the base of my card. Now I am done with my trimmer. So you can fold that up. You can put that. Okay, so we're going to take the base of our card. So this piece here that we trimmed down, we're going to do a couple more trims on this. So we want to, here at the fold, on those little flaps, I'm just going to make those angled so that when we put our pocket together, those will fold in a little easier and not be in the way. Because what's going to happen is this is going to get folded like this so that we have a pocket for our insert to go into. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to decorate this card base. This narrow piece we're going to lay aside. This is going to be the very last thing we attach at the very, very end of our card. This piece is going to go right here on this front. We'll open that up so you can see where I'm putting that. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and just use my liquid adhesive to put that on. You can use whatever adhesive you want to on this part because it really doesn't matter. You will want tear and tape for this next part. If you don't have tear and tape, then I would highly, highly recommend that you use the Stamp and Seal Plus because you need a really strong adhesive to hold this pocket together, and also for the mechanism that will make this card work. So we're going to take our tear and tape, and we're going to put a piece of tear and tape on either side of that DSP along those little flaps that we made with our score line. And you want to run that all the way along. You want a really good, strong bond the whole way. And I would recommend the easiest way to make this stuff work is to give it a good burnish with your bone folder or some other object just to make sure it's pressed down to that cardstock really well before you try to peel that backing off. Okay, and we're going to do the same over on this side. And we'll give it a good burnish. Now, while we've got the tear and tape handy, we're going to take our mechanism, okay, that piece that we ran that bone folder over, and we're going to apply tear and tape to it as well. Those two little flaps that we formed on it are also going to get tear and tape. All right. Go ahead and use that bone folder, give it a good burn showing. So that is our tear and tape part. Let's go ahead now and lay those two pieces aside, and we're going to go ahead and decorate our insert. So the insert piece on the long end inside. So your folded insert gets a piece of DSP on the inside of it. And again, I am just going to be using liquid adhesive for this. And I am using a non-directional DSP. If you are using a DSP that has an obvious direction, this fold line is going to be the top, where you want the top of your pattern to be. Okay. I'm going to stamp on this before I adhere it, but I'm going to go ahead. This piece, after you fold this insert in half, this DSP goes up here so that you've got it on the top of your insert. Okay. Applying liquid adhesive to it, and I am just centering it up on that front part of our insert. Now, once this insert gets adhered into our card base, it's going to pull out like this. This will pop up, and your inside sentiment is going to be here. So that's what we're going to stamp now. And I am using 3 different stamps on this that come from the Plentiful Plants, my card. Now you'll want to put this right at the very top of your cardstock. You want to have enough room to sign underneath, and then we're going to adhere it also at the very top of the inside. So you want to keep it close to the top edge up here so that it doesn't show anything when the card is closed. You want it to be hidden, because this is like the little surprise that pops open and reveals your message. Again, liquid adhesive for this is just fine because it is not a moving part. It's not holding a moving part. So keeping it near the top edge, just kind of eyeballing it so that it's in the center. Okay, and that is that. So our insert is done, it's decorated, it's ready to go. And I'm going to set it aside. Well, we're not really going to set it aside. We're going to go ahead and take it and our mechanism, and we're going to adhere this mechanism to this insert. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to take off just one piece of the backing to reveal our sticky on our tear and tape. Okay. And that is going to be adhered up here at this top fold. So center it up the best that you can. And you want the top edge of your mechanism to match that top edge of that fold best that you can. Let me turn it this way. When you're happy with how you've got it, you can go ahead and give it a good rub to bond it together really tightly. Okay. Now this will fold up like this. Now that you've got it adhered, this folds up, and we are going to place it inside of our inserts. We're ready to line this up. Now having this grid paper is very handy. So if you've don't have the grid paper, if you've got something with a grid that can help you line everything up so that this edge is lined up and this edge will get lined up, we want to try to center this in here the best that we can. Okay, it's not going to be right on the lines, but you'll be able to see that it's pretty evenly centered up. Now before I take that off, I want to close this up. I'm going to be pulling this out, okay? So I'll pull this out. What I want to match up is the edge of this. I want to match up with the edge of this front flap. So I need to pull it out just a little further. Okay, so see the edge of this when it's folded up, it's going to match the edge of this here. Okay, now making sure that I'm still squared up and lined up with my grid paper. I'm about centered here. Now I can go ahead and peel away that backing on that other piece of tear and tape. And I can carefully just close this down, and that's going to adhere it where it needs to be. Okay, So what happens when I pull it this way, it's going to pull this up, okay? So now that I've got that in there, I can go ahead and fold this forward, okay? Like this, because we are now ready to make our pocket around that insert, okay? So what I'm going to do now is just take away the backing, but not peel it all the way off. So we're just going to peel it back a portion of the way, about an inch or so on either side, and just kind of fold that backing over so that it's out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and begin to adhere our flaps. So once you've got it started, you can carefully just kind of start peeling that back and pushing it down, keeping the card flat so it doesn't get too much of a bow, like that. Okay, now we have a working card. So this is going to pop out, that's going to pop up. Okay, so what we need to do now is adhere this piece, this extra piece of DSP that I told you was going to be put on last. We're going to go ahead and put it on now. I still want to make decorations for the front of the card, but I want to show you where this goes. So this, hopefully you can see if I can get the light so you can see down in there. Right here we've got the edges of that pocket. We don't want our insert to hang up on that. So we're going to adhere this piece of DSP in there so it's just up over the edges. So it's going to adhere like this, and it will cover those edges enough so that our slider will not get hung up on that. So again, liquid glue is just fine. In fact, it's perfect because it's going to give you just enough wiggle room to get it in there and placed where it needs to be without getting stuck, because it's a little tricky to get it in there. It's not impossible, but you want a little wiggle room. So just kind of pinch the sides so that it opens it up for you a little bit so you can see in there, and then just kind of lay that up in there. And then you can just kind of turn your card and wiggle it down into place. So you want the edge of this DSP and this DSP to kind of line up on both sides. And with any luck, yeah, there we go. So it lines up pretty evenly on both sides, and you've got a nice even border down here at the bottom. Okay. Now you can fold this back down and push it back in, and that's how it should look. Now we can decorate our front panel with whatever we want. I am going to be putting some little decor pieces that I have cut out of some of the Bloom Where You're Planted cards, or DSP. Yeah, I like that. So I think these will just glue right to the front. With liquid glue. Just kind of to either side. And then this, I think we're going to go ahead and use some dimensionals to put it on with. All right. I'm just going to put it here in the center. And then I'm just going to put a matte black dot up here so it looks like the planter is actually hanging on something, and that covers over that Stampin' Dimensional, so no sticky adhesive is going to be peeking through. Now, you can, if you want, put something here to let the recipient know to pull. That's what I did with mine. So what I did with mine is I just took a round punch. This is not a Stampin' Up, but I'm using what I have. So I'm going to just make a little, I think I will go with a scrap of my cardstock that we trimmed away. And I am just going to punch a circle. And I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to put it here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to handwrite the word pull on there with my Stampin' Right marker. A functioning piece, okay? And I'm just going to glue that right there. That way they know it's to be pulled, okay? And so you're going to pop that out, and that's going to pop up. Now, you've got room to sign. You could also put some kind of a decoration here and or here. But now you've got the idea of how to make this pull-out pop-up card. I appreciate you watching my tutorial today, and I'd love to hear from you at adastrastamping@yahoo.com. You can email me there and get the full tutorial instructions with all of the dimensions you need to make this card. And if you'd like to shop with me at astrastamping.stampinup.net, look for this card video and tutorial there, and you will be able to see what shopping cart items I used to make this card. In the meantime, I hope you keep reaching for the stars.